Hello everyone, this is your video showing you how you're going to get started working on your lino print. I wanted to start first with all the things that was in the bag that you should have received today in your class. So in your bag you have a major thing here. You've got your printmaking block, and then you also have a pencil I provided for you. You have an orange marker, and then you also have your carving tool. Your carving tool has two tips in it. You have a wide tip that will be carving larger areas, and I call this is like a 0 or 1. I think this is a number 1 carving tool, and that's going to help you get started outlining and doing some different things with it. And also you have a Sharpie, and the Sharpie is going to help you outline on your printmaking block so you'll know where you're going to be carving. So I'm going to take everything out except for the carving tool there. I'll put this away. And the assignment was to illustrate a story or something from a book, and I am going to do something from Ezra Jack Keats' Snowy Day. And so I found a photo that I had taken, and I printed it out. It looks something like this. It is okay if you print it out too large because you can always adjust it. I do want to emphasize that you're not going to print all of these details. You're going to simplify this photo and make it a little bit easier. So the first thing you need to do to get ready is to see exactly what is going to go on your block. So I can see like this is a little bit too big, but this stuff over here isn't that important. So I'm going to move this over, and then it's okay if you have some space at the top and the bottom. You can leave that blank. In fact, sometimes when you do your print that way, it's kind of cool. Now, so once you know what you're going to have on your block and in your print, then you're going to start outlining with your pencil. Now, when you outline with your pencil, you want to do it darkly. Like I'm going to start with this tree right here. You're going to outline it darkly like this and press down as hard as you can. This is a number 2 pencil, which is kind of a mid-weight pencil, and it will make nice dark lines, but you've got to press down hard. Now the other thing is, if this is something I really want to show up, then color it in, so that way I know that when this transfers over, I am going to fill this in with black. Everything that you're filling in with black is where you're not going to carve out. Okay, everything that you are going to put the orange marker on is where you are going to carve out. So that's the difference there. So I like this tree, and then down here at the bottom I'm going to add some texture. So I'm going to go ahead and put some lines around this snowdrift here, and then maybe put a couple lines in there, and then the shadow that's underneath it, I'm going to do it a little bit different. Because I want to differentiate between the shadow and the tree. So I'm going to outline where the shadow is, again pretty dark, and then I'm going to think about what I could do to make this a little bit different. I think what I'm going to do is do this. I'm going to do some lines like this going across. To simplify it a little bit so it doesn't look like a tree, so it looks more like a shadow. Again, all of this, that's the white, I want it to stay white. What I'm probably going to do is going to do a 2-color inking where I'll do maybe a white and a blue. So I'll have blue at the top and maybe white towards the bottom. And I'll show you how to do that when we get to the inking. So same thing over here. Here's the shadow of my tree. Remember that part is not going to show on this side. So going this direction, and then this will be a shadow, so kind of put some lines in there, and then I want to make sure I put in the horizon line right here. And I've got a building over here. I'm going to outline really darkly, and then I'll add in where the windows are. Again, this is going to be colored in just like my tree. This will not be carved out, but my windows probably will be, so those can show up. I've carved those out. You want to remember that this is all carving. You're going to carve it out, so you don't want it to be so difficult that you're not going to be able to do that. Now, like, for instance, this tree is kind of thin, so as I'm using my marker, I can make the tree get a little bit thicker, so it'll be a little bit easier for me to carve it out. All right, so we'll pretend like I've spent, probably that's going to take you, maybe 15, 20 minutes tops. And here is it finished. I'll hold that kind of sideways so you can see where the pencil is shining on it, where I have put the pencil on it. And I did it exactly like I did the other one. Now, once this is done, then you're ready to go ahead and get started on your block. Before you transfer it, on the side of your block, take your Sharpie and put your name on the side of it, so that way we know whose is whose when we're doing printmaking. Then turn it sideways. And you're going to take your pencil again, turn this over, get it positioned just the right place. Now the interesting thing is, remember, when you're doing printmaking, your block is going to be backwards of what your original picture is going to look like. So your print is going to look like this, but on the block it will be backwards. So taking this, I'm going to hold it down with my finger so it doesn't move. And I'm going to press down really, really hard and rub it. You can use a Sharpie if you want to. I could probably do that like this. So if you know exactly where you put the pencil, that will help, and that way you can go right on top. Now hold this down and feel like you can see how that's transferring over. Again, don't let it move. I think I'll switch back to pencil because it's causing some wrinkles. Now, some of you may have difficulty with this transferring over, and that's because you didn't press down hard enough. It's really important that you press down really hard when you're doing this. With your pencil, that is. Okay, so let's see. Let's see how we're doing here. All right, that's looking pretty good. Yeah, there we go. You can see here's my original, and there's what it looks like in the block. Again, it's backwards. Okay, now comes the important part. You're going to take, I've got white space down here, white space down here. You're going to take and start outlining with your Sharpie. Again, the Sharpie is where you are not going to carve. And if it doesn't look exactly like your picture, that's perfectly okay, because nobody's going to know except for you. Now, the Sharpie doesn't like to write, oh goodness, on the printmaking block. You're just going to have to deal with that. These, I stopped and bought these, and these are brand new Sharpies, so hopefully that will work. Just keep working with it, and you may have to stop, and what I'm doing is stop and kind of wipe some of that stuff off so it works better, because it's going to fight you the whole time. Another thing you can do is kind of use the side of it as you're working. Okay, but you will outline everything, and we'll pretend like I have that done. So everything gets outlined. And again, it's okay. Look at your picture as a photo reference and see kind of where things are like right here. This is that branch. And I simplified the branches on as I was drawing them. So as I'm drawing them on here with my marker, they'll be thicker than probably those lines that are there, and make it a little bit easier to carve out. Now the last thing you do is you're going to take your orange marker and you're going to color this over. Now you'll notice these are horrible orange markers. I got them from the old set. They're not from the new set. But what they will do, as you're doing this is it will fill in, it will color in all that white space, and that's what you're going to want to carve out. So as you're carving, that's going to do it. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to carve here in just a second. So if you do get that done, I'm obviously not going to have this whole thing carved, but you've seen one that is carved. So let me show you here real quickly. This is from the Christmas card that I had that is carved out. So all of this right here, I outline. You can see the marker on there already. Okay, see how that works. And then the red is the ink left over from printmaking, but you can see where I carved it out. Now notice on some places I've carved out and just added the texture. Okay, that would be like where the shadow is. And like right here where the hat is, I just carved out one side. So like this would be a solid color, and then this would be the texture on that side. And like down here where his beard is, I did that too. And then the areas that are carved out here are going to be the color of the paper. Okay, so everything that is black left on here is going to be the color of the ink we use. Okay, so the ink will stick to those spots. All right, so just remember that as you're going. Now, that's it, just in case you have time to work on this, and I hope that you do. Let me show you the first step in carving. And you have your carving tool here. These are pretty handy. We didn't get to do this last year because I couldn't find these handles, but I was glad that I was able to have them. Now, this will stick right into the end of this wooden handle like this. We're supposed to know. You have to press it down. It's okay to put it, if you have like a table that you don't mind getting a poke in or something, like that. Okay, so you can see how that goes in like that. All right, and you're going to outline, start with something large. You outline everything that is black. You're going to take this, you're going to press it down, and you just want a line to come off like that. Okay? So you should end, if you're doing it right, you should end up with a piece like this. Okay, then I'm going to turn it sideways. I'm going to follow the rest of that line. And you don't want to get into the black, you want to be beside the black as you're going. So you're outlining everything. Now, after you have everything outlined, we'll fast forward it. Then you can start using the larger tool. Now, I will tell you, my students, when I've done this, and I usually do this with either 3rd, 4th, or 5th graders, and when they've done this, they want to rush and start using the larger tool, which is a mistake, because you start using the larger tool, then it gets more difficult. All right, so what I'm going to do here is, I think at the top, instead of, I think I'm going to put a line here. And that way, this would be solid, and I may even cut that off. So I think that's what I'll do. I'll probably cut that off instead of right there. So now you can see how, taking it very carefully, you're just carving off the top. All right. So this would be like in the larger areas. You can see how easily that's coming right off. Now you want to go the same direction because this is actually going to create a texture. Now you can see on mine that I've done here, this one I carved in the background here and went this direction. I carved it. Now this was carved with the small tool. In fact, I think this whole thing I carved with the small tool because I had so many small areas. But on this one, since I've got such large white spaces, I'll probably do it with this one. And then in here, where I'm going to do the shadows, I will do that with the smaller tool, so I can carve those details in. And like inside here where the windows are, I'll do that with a smaller tool. Inside where the branches are, that'll all be done with a smaller tool. And if you don't have to, it's okay if you have some lines and things on there. You can see on the finished print, you're going to have some lines. And see, this is that line I was talking about at the top that designate where the top of the print would be. That would be that line right there. Okay, so you can see some of the details and the textures. That's part of a print, it's just having those lines in there. But you still want to be able to see the textures and things that are there. If you have a light source coming from one side, again, think about that, because you'd have, this is where I have on this hat. You can see where I did the texture on this side, but this side would be solid. Okay. All right, so we'll talk more about this on class on Friday. You have to have yours completely carved out before we can print it. So we'll have some people get ready to go ahead and screen print. So we'll be having screen printing and doing our liner prints at the same time. There's a possibility that we could do these 2 weeks in a row. We just couldn't take very much time the second week because we've got more agenda, more things to talk about. Your group lessons are going to be coming up here pretty soon, believe it or not. And so we'll need to start talking about that. And also we have our artist chair that we'll be talking about pretty quickly. So have a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.